in Swanson, 74th District. I believe you have a few words to say. I invite you up right now, Dan.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here. And I don't think we've acknowledged Anita and Eddie yet for all their hard work. So if we could recognize Anita and this is always a wonderful event, and I'm always honored to be invited here. To the young voices here, how great was that? As I said, it's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm humbled to be here, to be amongst friends of Kewanee and the surrounding area. In the House during this month, of course, the Black History Month, every day we're in session, we recognize someone during our openings in the House. This past Wednesday, which was the last day I was in session, we honored three wonderful women, African Americans, who you're probably all well familiar with. When I read their names, you may not recognize them, but when I tell you their quick story, you will. The three I'm speaking of are Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughn, and Mary Jackson. Those names ring a bell yet? Let me help you out. Thank you very much. They were the group made up of mostly women who calculated by hand the complex equations that allowed space heroes like Neil Armstrong, Alan Shepard, and John Glenn to go into space. Think of that. Those three women who did the calculations that we use computers and plug them in and do all that calculations today, thousands and thousands of times faster. But yet these women were able to do that. Through their sheer tenacity, force of intellect, they ensured their stamp on American history. And as I mentioned, their impact was shown in the movie Hidden Figures. Another individual I'd like to recognize locally here, who's been up standing here already for what he's contributed to Henry County and our surrounding areas, Mr. Marshall Jones. Marshall and I served on the county board together, and Marshall Jones was the first African American to serve on the Henry County board. Now he serves as the Henry County chairman, the first African American to do that. He does a great job. His heart and passion is with the people of Henry County. And for that, Marshall, you do a great job, and I appreciate all you've done for our county here. Let's recognize him. Upon seeing the theme for this year's extravaganza of empowerment, empowering the next generation, standing behind me and many of the young people out here, you're the next generation. You're the next generation to maybe send men and women to the moon again or maybe to Mars. You're the next generation, empowering you. You may be the next generation to carry the torch to develop a cure for cancer, HIV, AIDS, or some other medical breakthrough. Empowering the next generation to do that, and that's you. You are the next generation to carry on traditions like this, a community Black history, extravaganza. We're not going to be around forever. It's going to be up to you, the next generation, empowered to do that for us. Okay. You are the next generation to be challenged with so many things. Look forward to those opportunities to contribute, just as you highlighted in the past, as we've discussed here, as Marshall pointed out. What does the word empower mean? Empower means to give someone official authority or freedom to do something. And we don't define what that is because that's up to you to define what that something is as the next generation. If it says someone of official authority, I don't know who that person is to give that authority to you, but I'm sure I'm standing here today, and I'm sure Congresswoman Bustos would give you that authority. It's within our power. But I think it's up to you to have to do something. I think it's up to you to do something starting from today, to do that something that helps determine what the next generation is going to do. Let's not disappoint those who have sacrificed before us, the generations that have preceded us, but now it's up to you, the next generation of leaders, eager to learn, grow, and find new ways to apply your talents, even when blended with the tried and true ways of us and the older generations. It's not enough just to leave them this world. Let's help show them how we can help them bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice and make this a better place. Once again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I want to recognize that empowering the next generation as our community, our county, our country, and the place we all call home to be a better place tomorrow by the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And with that, I invite Congresswoman Bustos to come forward.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Ed, I want to say thank you to you for always being so kind enough to invite us. Anita, thank you for all the hard work that you put into this as well. And to our county board chair and to Dan, I want to say thank you also to the entire community Black History Committee that puts this on, and then also, of course, to the First United Methodist Church. Thank you for hosting. You did a very nice job at directing the first song. Are we going to hear more from your... Yeah. All right, you guys are all set for it? Okay, we're excited to hear from you. So, just a couple things I'd like to share with you that would perhaps bring what's going on today out in Washington, D.C. with the history, with Black History Month, and with what's happening right here in Kewanee. And Marshall, you did a great job of talking about what brought the Black History Month to February. When you mentioned Frederick Douglass's birthday, Abraham Lincoln's birthday, but there was something else that I think is worth noting today. Because it was the 15th Amendment was first ratified in 1870 in the month of February. So trivia, does anybody know what the 15th Amendment does? Well, it is the amendment that gave the right to vote to all men. To all men, and it was 1870, so we are celebrating the 150th anniversary of the 15th Amendment. That was ratified in February, so that was actually part of what made February Black History Month as well, if you look at the history. So, and then what happened in 1920, where we are celebrating the 100th anniversary this year.
Women.
Thank you very much, Anita. Women's right to vote in 1920. All right, so we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of that. And so I bring in that history. It equates with Black history because of the 15th Amendment, and then, of course, the 19th Amendment. It took 4 amendments later, by the way, for women to get the right to vote. But then reality kicked in a little bit with bringing it again. I'm kind of going along in history. In the 1960s, and what was happening in the 1960s as it pertains to all men getting the right to vote? By that time, of course, we had all women having the right to vote. But what else happened in the 60s?
Civil rights.
Civil rights. So to bring that to today, kind of a bright spot of today, is I am fortunate enough to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives with a couple of men that play in well with today, Black History Month, and the historical nature of what's happened in our country. One of those gentlemen is a guy named Jim Clyburn. Not a household name, right? Does anybody know what Jim Clyburn's role is in the U.S. House of Representatives? He is the highest ranking African American ever to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. He is the whip. He's the 3rd highest ranking person right now, and the highest ranking African American ever to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives. So I sat down with Mr. Clyburn. I call him Mr. Clyburn because I always want to show respect to Mr. Clyburn. He knew Martin Luther King. And I wanted him to share with me what he remembered about Martin Luther King. And what he said to me, and this was a message, we did a little videotape on this, where he talked about how Martin Luther King reminded him, this is a powerful story that he remembered. And this is what he said. He told me that after the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965, he said he urged him and the rest of the nation to march right to the ballot box. Another gentleman I served with, John Lewis. Anybody know who John Lewis is? Okay, I hope so. Because John Lewis was not a whole lot older than the young women and men sitting behind me. He was only in his early 20s when he marched alongside Martin Luther King in Selma, across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And was one of those men that day who was beaten to a pulp, all to make sure that everyone's civil rights were honored, and that right to vote was honored. Nearly gave his life for that. And so, on behalf of someone like Mr. Jim Clyburn, the third highest ranking African American ever to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives, my colleague, and John Lewis, who is battling cancer today, being able to serve alongside a guy like John Lewis, respected by Democrat and Republican alike, men and women, all over this country. And with this theme being empowering the generations, what I'd like to leave you with is, again, my gratitude for putting this together, to having so many young people here, but the reminder to all of us who might be a little bit older than the folks sitting behind us, that next generation, that we've got to do this for them. And every single one of us, please keep in mind someone like John Lewis, who nearly gave his life, or someone like Martin Luther King Jr., who did give his life for civil rights, for all of our rights. And we have to make sure that those that we elect, who are our voices in Springfield, or in Washington, or at the county level, or at the city level, are doing the best they possibly can be to bring us together, to unite us, not divide us. So on this day, during Black History Month, I want to say thank you for all those who give it their all every single day. And thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of you. And thank you to our wonderful next generation for all they will accomplish ahead of us. Thank you very much.